And I am invisible. That's because my wife is not able to be here today. So you get just me. So, hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to the shop. We're going to have fun today with a cheese making project. But yes, my wife is not able to be with us tonight. She is been crazy hours at work and other things, so she is not going to be here. So if you do have any questions or things, I have my chat up here that I can watch. But if you can put like question at the beginning, or if someone super chats, that will make it pop up so I can see what's going on. So what are we actually making tonight? This is a weird one. We are going to be making a cheese curd slicer. Now, excuse me, dinner was good. What you have is, if you're making cheese, and this is my cheese making pot, you fill it up with water and you add your rent and your bacteria to it, and you let it sit, and it hardens up into kind of a gelatinous blob. But what you want to do is you want to cut it apart into curds, and usually they're about 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, though some recipes have different sizes. And what that does is it allows the whey to leave the curd, and they can solidify and become a little bit harder, and you condense it down into cheese. But it's kind of important that you make all the pieces the same size so that they all become the same hardness. Otherwise, if you have some big pieces, they become softer, and you have smaller pieces that become harder. And we want to make it even all the way around. But the problem is, if you have a pot like this, if I take a knife and I set it down in there and I want to cut it all into 1/2 inch cubes, so I can cut this way and I can cut this way, but I can't cut this way. So how do I stick a knife in there? So you end up doing like this 45-degree cut this way and a 45-degree cut this way, and you never quite get them in the bottom. And so today we're actually going to make a cheese curd slicer. And what that is it's going to be 2 dowels that go down in. One goes in the middle of the plate, one goes in the middle of the bowl, one goes on the outside of the bowl, and they're going to have separators up top and a whole bunch of strings running across between them. And this will allow us to run it around inside here and get all of these cuts 1/2 inch apart all the way around inside the pot. So hopefully today we're going to be able to make this. But that is the fun of it. Let's see if there's any questions not up yet. If you do have any questions, if you can put question at the front or something like that so I can see them pretty quickly, that would help out. So we're going to be starting with some 3/8 dowel. This is just extra dowel I had lying around, which just happens to be walnut. Now I know it's going to scare a few people, because some people are like, ooh, aren't people out there afraid of allergic to walnut? You wouldn't want to use walnut while cooking. Well, walnut wood does not actually have the chemical that people are allergic to in walnut nuts, so it's not a problem for that. And so if I had oak dowels, I'd probably use those, but I have walnut dowels. So we're going to make this fancy. It's up here. There we go. So first thing we're going to do is cut this to length. And I think it was like 19 inches. I did one of these up already, because I want it to be long enough that it goes all the way down into the pot. It has lines evenly all the way along there. And then high enough up we can put a span here and a span here to help keep these apart, because there's not going to be anything separating them down below. So we're going to set this up and mark it. Let me get this camera in place. Oops, slide down. And there we go. And sorry Sarah's not here, so all of the background in the chat is off. So we're going to cut these two the same length, which is right about there. Slide this one over, mark it, and cut it off. Now normally most people would probably pull out a bench hook, but I like to actually just do it in here. A little bit faster, a little bit easier. Then I don't have to pull out the bench hook. Ta-da! And it is just the same length. Oops. There. Now the next thing I want to do is on this one, let me zoom in a little bit closer here. On this one, I actually flattened off this surface and this surface, and that way it's a little bit thinner in diameter this way, so as it slides through, it's not messing up the cheese curds quite as much. So this one gets thinned down, but this one being in the middle, I don't have to thin it down, but I want to show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to thin down one side of this. That'll just make it easier for drilling the holes in here. So we're going to actually use a holdfast here, because I like my holdfast. And put it in this hole. And the reason I'm using a hold fast here is I want something to back it. If I just clamp it in here and I try and thin down the surface, this thing is really, really flexible and it's going to bounce all over the place. If I put the hold fast on here and I grab the mallet, you can tap it down. See, oh, there's a question on here. Do you have, let's see, do you have to use hardwood if you want to save some cheddar? Yes, there are too many good jokes in this one today. This whole video is about cutting the cheese, so most of the jokes are going to be rather cheesy. Yeah, I'm having too much fun here. All right, back to the job. So what I want to do is I want these both to be thinned out. I'm going to put a mark right about here. And I want to actually thin it out. Now I could grab a plane, but I want it to be round up here, and I want it to be flat down here. So I'm going to start here with the spoke shave. And this will allow me, wow, I'm going against the grain there. So we're going to turn it around and push it back. One. It's such a better cut when you go with the grain. And just like that, I have a nice flat surface here. Except for I'm going to come in and clean that up with a card scraper. So it's just a little bit rough. There we go. There we go. Nice and smooth all the way across there. And one more this way. There we go. So now I have my flat edge on here. Now I'm going to be drilling holes 1/2 inch all the way across this. So let me zoom in here. Hopefully that will get me. And we've got 1/2 inch holes going all the way down along this. And for that, I'm actually going to be using a fishing line to go between these. And so the holes don't need to be that big. And I have about a 1/16 inch hole. But because I have so many of these to do, I could set it up in my egg beater. But I want to do this live rather quickly. So that means we're going to have to do some other things in here. And for that sake, we have the devil's brace. Enough said. But I got to drill some holes. The next thing I need to do is actually mark out where all these holes are. And so before I got my tape measure out and put a mark every 1/2 inch along here. So now I'm going to come in here and grab my awl. And we are going to mark along this. Move this in a little bit more. And focus. Focus, there we go. And I'm just going to line them up with the holes that I have on the other one. So I want these to be fairly well even from one to the next. Just eyeballing the center. Nothing particular about this. And this is one of these projects that is kind of hobby-centric, and a lot of people have different hobbies, so it's kind of fun to play with other things. I would love to show Alan, who is, I don't know if he's on the live yet. I don't think I've seen him, but I haven't been looking. No, I haven't seen him yet. He does bookbinding, and I'd love to do a video on that here sometime. Just kind of fun to see other people's hobbies. Question, are you going to use a spreader at the bottom? No, actually I'm going to show you that. We are going to just use tension in them, and there's going to be 2 braces at the top that'll put a negative force on it all the way across so that the strings are trying to pull it back together all the time. So just marking all of these out all along here. This is one of the boring parts. This is where I like to have my wife, because she would fill in the nonsense here. So this is where we get to the skim portion of the project. Hi. Now I normally, if I like these holes I drilled this morning, I drilled about 3/4 of them by hand, and then I thought this is going to take too long during the live. So I'm going to do them at the drill, just because it makes it a little easier. So I'm also going to bring in the hold fast. This will help hold it all in place so it's not rolling around on me. It'll also make it so I'm putting them directly down in the same way all the way around. So I have a 16th inch drill bit, and now we can just go to town. That's probably really loud. Sorry, my microphone is right there next to it. And we're just going to go all the way along this, drilling out holes. See if there's any questions before I go on. Nope. Because with the egg beater, I put a hold fast at either end, and that allowed me to have two hands on the egg beater. Whereas with this, I just have to have a hold fast on one end. And it keeps on going. This is most definitely the boring part. And I thought I had a spool of fishing line, but unfortunately I did not, so I had to go cannibalize one of my fishing poles. But that's okay, because I've got like 70 of them. Two more. One more. There, we got our holes and we get rid of the devil's brace. Witchcraft, I tell you, witchcraft. Question, as a noob, what's the name of the egg beater tool? Oh man, I got sawdust up my nose. That was weird. This one is a Craftsman, but yeah, usually they're called. This is a hand drill. This is a brace. This is not a hand drill. This is a hand drill. So if you're looking them up, though, if you're looking for someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, they'll probably call both of them hand drills. Often, if you're looking for comparison one to the other, you'll see this one called an egg beater drill. As well, it's kind of like an old-fashioned egg beater. What's the name of the egg beater tool? Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different brands on them, and so really picking the brand isn't as important as just making sure it's functioning. If it's nice and smooth, everything's working, they're Chukka's size, that's really all that's important. There aren't that many bad ones. Now we've got all these little burrs on here from the bit puncturing out. So I'm going to use the scraper again. Just going to come along and clean them all off. A scraper is such a versatile tool to have in the shop. Clean off the burrs on both sides. There we go. Now we're going to put these spacers on this end, because what will happen is there'll be two spacers down here. So we'll have one spacer here and another spacer down here. Now I've already made one of them, so we don't have to do that twice, but we're going to make the second one. And I have some extra white oak that I've had lying around. Phone died. Oh, sorry, poor man. So this is old school oak. It's over 100-year-old white oak. And I really, really like this stuff. I got it. I had an old desk that was falling apart and bought it for all of the oak, and I've been using pieces out of it for a while. But it had a bunch of this slat work in here that is absolutely gorgeous. And we're going to start by cutting one end of it square because it has these old nail holes through it. Snapped a line on there just to get close to it. Square, and then we want to cut it to this length, and I think it was 8 inches because I want these to be 6 inches apart, and then so we're going to have 1 inch on either end that they're out that way. So draw a line on there, flip it around, and then cut it across at that line. If anyone has any question, go ahead and throw it in there and put question or something like that at the beginning so it makes it easier for me to see it because my wife is not here. Now, I want to get rid of all of the old finish on this because it is an old mission style finish. And so we're just going to take a couple strokes of the plane and clean that off. Where did I put my plane? I put it away. Look at that. Smart me, huh? Magical about... I feel bad that my wife isn't here to answer the live. Oh, here, I'm going to flip over to 2 so you can actually see this coming through. I love seeing the color on this pop out. 2. And I'm going to have a little bit over here. Like on this one, I just left it there rather than taking it all the way down. Just going to flip it over. And this is one of my favorite parts when I get these really, really fine curls coming out. See how this one was bowed a bit, and so I'm still hitting here in the middle. Oh, I love those curls with the oak grain coming through. Then let's hit these edges. Just like that. A little more here at the end. There we go. Do that this side. You mean you're not the only person using a landline? Yeah. Cool. Block plane. Just want to take the edge off of them, being very careful when you hold it in your hand not to slice your fingers. Let's try going with the grain. 2 strokes. Get a lightly set plane. Go with the grain. Oop. That one's this one. Then we're just going to round off the ends. Not round them off, just a light chamfer. And next, we want to drill the holes. Now what I want to do with this is the plate that goes down lower, I want these 2 holes to be 6 inches apart because my bucket here is 12 inches across. I believe it's 12 inches across. Yeah, 12 inches across. And so that means that I want these 2 sticks to be 6 inches across. So one of them stays in the middle and the other one spins around the outside of the pot. There's the word. So these holes are 6 inches apart and I want to transfer those holes onto the other one. So I'm going to grab my brace and bit. Focus. And I have in here the bit on here I want to use already. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp these together, flush them up to the end. I'm going to put the bit in there and use it to transfer the middle mark and transfer the middle mark. So this is the one that will be lower down in the bucket and this one will be higher up. Well, what I want it to do is I want it to put those 2 sticks down and point the bottoms apart. So when I put in the strings, I can pull the strings back into 6 inches apart. And that will just keep tension on the strings. So in order to do that, I actually want to move these 2 holes ever so slightly closer together. So I'm going to take my awl in here, and I'm just going to move them about a 1/16 of an inch, bury a really deep hole so that the auger bit has the spot it goes into. Just about a 1/16 inch together, just to put a little bit of pressure onto those. And now we can put it in here and drill. I had this fantastic idea for a new product today, and that is a new belt buckle that then fits into the brace. So you can lock the belt buckle in there. It's like, oh, I've got to make one of those. And I get questions quite often about why do I bore horizontally rather than vertically. Now I could put the ring on here to make sure I'm perfectly flat, but because I'm drilling through something so small, there's no reason for that. Just going a little bit until the tip comes in. The reason I do it horizontally is I get far more control of it. The hand that's most important is the hand that's back here. And if your entire body is holding that in place, it's a much more steady drill. Whereas if it's your head likes to wobble around a bit more. Until the bit comes out. And then we can turn it around and drill from the other side. That way the spurs on the bit cut a really nice clean entry and exit hole. And put it right into that same hole from the other side. Now this hole is ever so slightly tighter than the rods going through. And I like that because I want this to go together without any glue. Although I'm probably going to add just a tiny bit of super glue. I know some people out there are like, super glue, don't use that, it's not food safe. Ah, it's my cheese. Tiny drop of super glue ain't gonna hurt. Oh, let's see if I have any questions here. Sorry. I think at 21, good. Question. The ring on the bit is to make sure that it's straight and level. Yeah, if I put a ring on here, then if I tip it up like this, the ring's going to slide down this way. If I tip it back this way, the ring will slide back that way. And so as I'm watching it, I can make sure that I'm micro adjusting the plane to keep that ring at the same spot on the bit. If you want to see that on the second channel here, I've got an entire video dedicated to that one. And I want to keep these slightly separate. Let me line these up so those are out. Yeah, so I'm off. About 3/32 of an inch. Slightly less than an 1/8 inch, slightly more than a 1/16 of an inch. Gotta love the English system. Okay, so you go on here first. So let's actually work on sliding these down into place. And these should be really nice and tight. And I'm going to put them down in here so I can pound it down in. And very, very carefully grab my softer mallet. Put it right up to that last line. There's that side. Now, I want to make sure, I forgot to check that I rotated these because I want them to go through this way. So now it goes in there. Nope, it's got to go turn the other way. That way. And I want the holes to be going across from one side to the other. There, and it's leaning out ever so slightly that way. Or maybe that's just my imagination. That's just my imagination. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Take this one. Do the same thing with that one.
Daddy?
Yes, Arthur?
I'm in a quest and it's just way too confusing.
Yeah?
I'm on the mark.
Hey, Arthur? Arthur, what time is it? It's bedtime.
I've been on the marking from the top.
Yeah, Arthur, go upstairs and talk to Mommy. It's bedtime. Cool. That's perfect. So now, this can go down in here. This will leave a little bit of tension on here so that these are slightly farther apart here than they are back there. Now we can just drive this down on. Did I do that right? I put the wrong one on. Let me see. Let's measure it. Six inches on the money. Smaller than 6. Ah, I put them on wrong. Stink. Heh! I put the top one on the bottom one on the top. So that was really going on a lot harder than I thought it should. I gotta take them off.
Can I have
Do it again. Nope, time for bed, bud. Close the door all the way. My youngest somehow got through the bedtime system and was still up playing Zelda. Let's see. You have wire across you again. Can you move it to the right, closer to the camera? Oh, no, well, I can put this like here. I want to get a better cabling system so it comes straight down from the ceiling, but there's lots of things in here I'd like to get. All right, this one goes on first, so let's put these in. Yeah, see, that slides in a lot easier. I made these ones slightly bigger. I drilled them the same size, but then I took a rat's tail file and rounded them down out. So these are a little bit tighter. See, that's more the way I'm looking at it. Right to there. There we go. And now I can take this one, put that into there. There, that's better. So now, at this crossbar, it's exactly 6 inches apart. At this crossbar, it's slightly smaller than 6 inches apart. And then all the way down here at the bottom, it's like 6 1/4 inches apart. And that'll give me a 1/4 inch that I can just bend them in just a little bit. And I'll probably end up just putting a dab of super glue on them once I get them all tightened up in the way I want them. Let me make sure I've got this on here though. So we've got 12 1/8. I've got 12. How do we lose an 1/8 inch? There we go. When I super glue them in place, it'll be right where it needs to be. So now I want to string between them. But that means I've got to steal some string from my fishing lure, my fishing reel. And this is an old one that I don't use anymore, so it doesn't matter so much. I'm going to attach it to my bench so I can just pull it out. So let's see if we have any questions on here. The wire across here. He's on a quest, that's important. Yeah. 8 quarts thick and 24, 8 quarters thick and 24 inch wide. "24-inch wide, 8 quarters thick." Wow, that's a big board. What weight line? I really don't know. It doesn't need to be much. And the one thing that I was going through and thinking through this is I'm not going to be able to string this through all of them. And so I can do it probably through 5 or 6, and then I'll have to tie it off. And then like 5 or 6 more, and then tie it off again. And so I'm going to start up here at the top. Actually, yeah, I'm going to start right here at the top. I'll pull it through the first one, and then put it across into the second one. And in, come on, here. In preparing for this one, I actually saw, I found like 7 or 8 videos on how to make these. But unfortunately, all of them were by cheesemakers and not by woodworkers. And so a lot of them had some really interesting connection designs and odd uses of screws. So it was kind of fun to play with. I talked to a friend. Oh, this is not playing with me. I should have actually attached it to a reel. Oh, that's why. I should have actually, oh, my microphone came off. I should have actually attached this to a reel so it would actually spin. Just going to pull off a bunch of it. And we'll see how far that gets us. So if you have any questions, throw them up now. It'll be a good time as I stitch this thing together. What weight line? I'm guessing like 20 pound-ish. But are those rare in usually about 7-inch? Starting at the end of it will tie off the tension. Yeah, I'm not quite sure if there are pros and cons to starting at one end and going to the other. And I've heard both ways. And I don't really know. I'm interested to see on this one exactly how far I can string this through without too much issue of running into things, because at this point I'm just stitching and trying not to loop these into each other. But it's actually starting to look like I'm doing something invisible. I don't even know if you guys can see the string. Probably not. Here, let me see if I can show anything with this camera. I can't focus on that, can I? No, I can't. Let's try that. No. Camera number 2. So I go through one side into the other. And then I'll go down one rung hole and across to the other. Yeah, cheese making is one of the hobbies that I've recently picked up, and I've really been enjoying it. Kind of helps that I was born in Wisconsin. This is actually rather fun. Let's see. I literally make and sell a dozen of these a month. Oh, really? Cool. I'd love to see what you make. Send me some pictures of that. Here's that. I can't quite read it. Olibagala? Sorry, bad with names. Yeah, the floating end table. Ah, he beat me to it. I have plans of making a floating end table similar to that for the last 2 or 3 months. And I've got 2 slabs waiting for me, but I've got a couple projects ahead of it. And now it'll look like I was trying to copy him. But really cool table with the cable running between them. But I'm going to do mine with 2 large slabs, about 50 pounds apiece. And I'm going to do it with little cables. So it looks like there's almost nothing in between them. Although I thought of trying to do it with fishing line. Oops, looped it down. I thought I had a little more. So I'm going to get done with this one and one more. I'm going to see if I can feed it all down through and continue it down, because I would love to do it all out of one string. I think that would be really, really cool. There'd be less knots and less things for it to run into. But I don't think that I can get this all the way down on one string. I'm probably going to have to do it in 2. Although it is feeding through better than I expected. So now, nope, I'm not going to be able to stretch out more than that. All right, so we're going to do it halfway with one string and halfway with the other string. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie off one end here, and I'm going to loosely tie off the other end so that I can adjust the tension once I get it all done. And now let's do our fisherman's knot. I'd love to actually show you what that looks like, but I don't think you guys can even see this. There. And so now, I can pull out the tension between these. There, let's see how close I am to the 6 inches apart. Not quite. 5 3/4. So I'm pulling it together about 1/4 inch more than I want. But that'll allow me to give it a little bit of flexibility with how much I cut off here. So I'm going to loosely cut this. Oh, my knife's gone. And that will give me the chance to then be flexible on this end. Oh, I didn't cut it. Speaking of marking knives, Saturday's video I'm actually going to be making a marking knife. And I'm really looking forward to this because I've got like a dozen or so of them to give away. So if you are in the market for a marking knife, I'm going to be giving away a bunch of them. So now that's basically what I can do, and I guess I could continue it for the rest of the time, but let's see if there's any questions in here. The best I found is 8/4 at 8.5 inches wide. One table and a bunch of butcher block tables. Oh, I'm seeing what you're saying. You couldn't find it 24 inches wide. Yeah, no, finding 24-inch wide 8/4 would be almost incredible, and you would have to, you would have to get it from a slab dealer, and you'd end up paying slab prices, which are usually $8 to $10 a board foot. Well, depending upon where you are in the world. So if someone came and saw you doing this, they might think you're crazy crafting something in thin air. Yeah, pretty much. The tension is getting to me. Oh, yeah, I like that one. Just leaving that much pot out. Ah, you caught me. I like big pots. I cannot lie. Okay, let's continue threading this. If anyone has any questions or something they'd like me to talk about, let me know. I am actually really enjoying this. I like these tedious steps where you're kind of doing the same thing repetitively and you can kind of zone out. Put in a good audiobook. Wrong hole. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the time. That's fun to me. Drives my wife bonkers. She's got to either have excitement or a book in front of her. Here. Don't tell my wife I'm going to use my teeth. Thankfully, she's not down here. Just loving. I want to hear more about these marking knives. Tay Tools, which he is one of the larger suppliers. Oh, my microphone's loose. He's one of the larger suppliers of hand tools. He just worked with a knife company to create his own branded knives, marking knives, and they're actually kind of cool. He based the design off of my knife, and it is probably the closest knife I've seen come to mind. And my knife is made by Dan the Maker Man. If you want to watch it, he's got a video making my knife. And I absolutely love it. I haven't found anything anywhere near how much I enjoy using that knife. And I've wanted to find someone who would make my knife so I could brand it and sell them. But I haven't found anyone who could do it for quite the price. And I would be too picky about it. But his are a really good balance between economical price and getting close to the design. So he sent me a bunch of them, and he's selling them as a kit or as the full tool. And so I'm going to be on Saturday making a kit, and he sent me, I said, send me one or two to make a kit, and I'll do that. And he sent me probably 16, 17 of them. And so I'm going to make 2 and give away the rest. So we're going to be giving away a whole pile of marking knives on Saturday. So I'm really looking forward to that. Let's see what other questions we got. Give us some cheese recipes. Yeah, I know I thought about doing a cheese channel, but not this time. Question from Brian Fulmer. First and only hand plane for a little while. Which one, from where, new or flea market? That depends on you. New or used depends on your personality. If you're the person who likes a challenge and you like learning things by doing, then getting a used one and fixing it up is generally my preferred way to do it. And if you're looking for old ones, go to handtoolfinder.com. I have a list on there of every known place I know of where you can buy antique tools. And, oh, I'm going to be so close with this. But if you're looking for new, it depends on your budget. My all-time favorite is the Veritas Custom plane. And it's one of the most expensive, though. It is by far the best new plane you can purchase, but it costs money. And a lot of it. Well, this is kind of fun. Cheaper. The Wood Rivers are actually pretty good. The Wood Rivers, the new Stanley Sweethearts, they are decent. They're not amazing. They're not great. But for the price, they are very, very doable. Next up, Tay Tools actually has a branded version, and I really like those. I've heard several good things about the Grizzly planes, but I've also heard some bad things, but I've never had personal experience with the Grizzly planes. So I would like to actually experience them a bit more before I recommend them or not recommend them. But yeah, there aren't a lot of great low-end planes. And when I say low-end plane, I mean anything under $100. There just aren't that many choices. Why this nut is being a pain. Come on. One. And so if the plane is under $100 new, it's probably not worth it. And so that's why a lot of people end up going used, because that gets really expensive really fast. Now let's get rid of this slack. Almost there. Oh, I'm getting excited. I'm getting excited. Okay, let's cut off the excess here. Yes, I'm going to use my teeth. Ha 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 ha. And now, let's do that fisherman's knot again. One. Wish I had one more hand. One more hand would be nice. Pull it down nice and tight. A little tighter. There we go. There's that. Now we just got to do the top, and we've got ourselves. There we go. So once I finish this, I'm going to go through probably the lessons learned, because this is kind of a new experimental project for me. There's a bunch of things in this I just never have done before. And I like doing that and learning by doing. I find that to be one of the best ways for me to learn, because the lesson is actually learned at that point, rather than, come on, pull it back, tighten out. Pull it down. There we go. So there. Got to trim those off. Now, lessons learned. Number one, these are a lot closer together than I had anticipated. So I may end up going back and restringing this, but I've lost 3/8 of an inch up here. So a couple ways I could make that better is, number one, making this size a little smaller, which I may end up going to make another one of those, make it a little smaller and pinch it out. That would spread those out so the tension on this would pull them together. You don't need a lot of tension in this to cut cheese. You just need a little bit for most cheeses. But other than that, I really like it. I'm actually looking forward to using it and giving it a try. So basically what happens is this piece goes in the middle, this one goes down the side, and then I can hold this one in place and spin this one around, and this will give me a nice even cut all the way around at 1/2 inch increments. And then I can come in with my knife and go slice, 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 and I get these perfect 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch cubes the whole way through. So that is going to be a lot of fun. All right, let me get to some of these questions here. If space fantasy is your thing, the First Colony series by... It's a good listen. Oh, yeah, I'll have to look at that. Can you show us your pocket hole bit from the brace? Yeah, here. I actually have 2 of them in stock right now. Since I broke one, let me grab one of them. Here's one of my favorites. 2, not 4, 2. There we go. Switch over to one that's actually there. So this is a pocket hole bit. And so it's got a pull screw up here. But then down here, you actually sharpen this edge and this edge. And it will give you a cone that you can fit in there. So that is an old-fashioned pocket hole bit. And so this is probably over 100 years old. And this is how they attached skirts to tables often. Pocket holes. It's an old thing. And I actually have several videos showing how to make pocket holes in a couple different ways. But yes, pocket holes are a useful methodology of joinery. It's not just a newfangled Craig jig. They're actually rather old. Let's see. Will it be live Saturday? Yeah, for the knives. The knives, those will be coming out Saturday morning. I usually release them sometime around 10:30 a.m. Central Time, but it depends on when the video actually gets done. But I won't be giving them away live. I'll be giving them away. I'm actually going to do it 2 different ways. I'm going to give some of them away to chats, and some of them I'm going to be giving away on Gleam. So you'll have several different chances and several different ways of getting them. But oh yeah, let me show you the knives. So he's actually making them, and I don't even know if these are currently available on the site. I believe they are, but this is like brand new. He sent them to me a little bit ahead of time. Here, go back into this. So the knife kits are like this, and so mine is this, and so this is the one that Dan the Maker Man made, and this is my absolute favorite. I just love this design with the long shank on here, and it's thinner than most. It's about a 1/16 inch. It's a really thin plate, and these ones, they aren't quite as long a shank as I would like, but they're pretty close to it. But he also offers them in 2 different thicknesses, so they come in the really thin that I like, and then the slightly thicker that most people like. And then so he sells them with walnut handles, or you can buy the kit and they come with pins. So these are what I'm going to be giving away on Saturday. So stay tuned for that. I should have actually put a link down below. I don't know if they are actually available yet. I have to keep an eye on that, but they will be coming out Saturday. All those sharp tools, any chance of minimal tool project where you only use your teeth, hands, and clogs? I've actually done several videos where I only use a 1/2-inch chisel. Where's my 1/2 inch? There's my 1/2-inch chisel. I've only used a 1/2-inch chisel. I actually did one where I went into the woods with a 1/2-inch chisel and a strop, and I cut down a tree using a 1/2-inch chisel. I split the log in half and took legs and mortised the legs into the half log, and I made a stool using only a 1/2-inch chisel. I have another one where I actually made a box from a piece of firewood using only a 1/2-inch chisel to cut with. Actually, no, that one I used a full chisel set, so I used 4 chisels, not just the 1/2-inch chisel. But I have quite a few videos where I only use 1 or 2 basic tools to make something. So if you want to see that, go look those up. Well, much different to the Craig jig. Yeah, a little bit different. Have you seen a brace or hex adapter? No, I have not heard of anyone who's making a brace adapter where it has the tapered square on one end and a hex adapter on the other end. A lot of chucks, like this one, will work both with hex or square heads, and it works well in that. But many of them don't. They only take the tapered square bits. Now, I've heard Tay Tools, the same guy making the knives, he's playing around with the idea of getting a company to make those, but we'll see. It'd be kind of cool because I really like the owl bits that are the 3 tang auger bits, and they're really fast, really nice bits, but they have the hex on there, so they're not as useful for people with a brace. But we'll see what those come out. But I don't know of any company that makes an adapter. It would be very nice to have one. Question: how involved is the cheese making project, and can I can always use another marking knife? Yeah, you can never have enough marking knives. I probably have a dozen or so marking knives around here, but I usually just use this one. I love this marking knife. Dan the Maker Man, if you're watching, you should do good work, and he makes a whole bunch of these. He does specialty making on them, and I love this thing. Walnut handle, beautiful. What was the question? Sorry. How involved is the cheese making? Different cheeses are different. They all go through the same process. You heat the cheese up, you get it to the desired temperature, you add in your bacteria, your culture, and you let it sit, let that work for a while. Then you add in your rent, and that then will allow everything to coalesce and become hard. And then you cut the curds into the shape and size. You then heat it up so that you let the curds dry off. And then you do different things. Either you take the curds out and you break them apart and you make like a cottage cheese or something of that nature, or you can separate them out and dry them up. You could separate them out, get all the way out, and then compact them down into a block. If you're making a feta, then you then cut that block apart into pieces and cure all the pieces. If you're making a cheddar, then you press it down. You add your salt and your flavorings at that point. And then different cheeses and different setups then rest in different ways. Either they're on the counter at room temperature, or they might be in the refrigerator at something around 40 degrees, or they might be in a cheese cave, which is usually kept around 55-ish Fahrenheit. And then they rest for different amounts of time, and so some of them might be overnight, some of them might be a week, some of them might be 6 months, some of them might be 10 years that they sit and rest. One of my all-time favorite cheeses is a 4-year aged Swiss. Just fantastic. But you get some of the really big ones like the 10 and 12-year cheddar. That's just like eating a crystal. Those are really, really good. How much better will the Only Chisel Challenge be now that you have the Nerix? It would last a lot sharper, because I did those with the Aldi's chisels, the Only Chisel builds, and they held up rather well. The Aldi chisels are really good chisels, but the Nerix cryogenic, those are happy. How much better will Lee Valley has an adapter of hex as well, 3/8 socket adapter. Lee Valley has an adapter, so it's a 3/8 hex adapter to a tapered square. I'm gonna have to look that up. I haven't seen that. I'll stick to making, stick to buying cheese. There's something about making cheese that you get to play around with it a little bit more. I've been playing with my feta, and the stuff you get from the store is rather dry, very crumbly, but still moist and soft. And so I've been playing around with some that's a little bit more creamy, and then the last batch I let them air dry a little longer, and they're almost like a hard cheese curd. Like a cheddar curd texture. I really like those. So we'll be seeing. The problem is I left them in the brine a little too long, made them a little too salty. A man after my own heart. A brace adapter to hex, not a brace to 3/8 socket. Yeah, that's what I want to get, is the tapered square inch that fits into the brace that then has a hex adapter, so I could put in the owl. What's that owl something bit? Angry owl? No, I can't remember what that is. But something that I could fit the hex bits into. If you go to Hala Makers, a feta is magnificent and moist. Yeah, that's one of the fun things about being in Wisconsin. You go to any grocery store and there are hundreds and hundreds of cheeses to choose from, and there are entire stores that are nothing but cheese. And especially in Wisconsin cheeses, they're really well known for cheese plus something else, either herbs or berries or things like that mixed in. Whereas you go to Europe and you have a lot more of the traditional, Havarti, Brie, and your basic cheeses. Whereas Wisconsin tends to do a lot more of the cheese plus variety of types of things. So I think that'll about do it. I'm probably going to tweak this a little bit and play with it. Maybe I'll just see if I can stretch it. I don't know. Maybe I'll play with it. I'll probably actually just leave it like this and see how it functions. But I'm really happy with this. So now I'm just going to make me some cheeses. So this has been a lot of fun. Sorry my wife hasn't been here, so it's been a little bit slower as she can't get in with the chat. But hopefully we'll be back next week, and hopefully she will be able to join us as long as she's not too busy. So we'll see how that goes. You have whiz. Whiz is not cheese. I hate the fact that American cheese is not cheese. It's just one of those annoying things. German with edible flowers. Oh yeah, some of the like a rose cheddar is fantastic. Although my favorite is pansy. You can take pansy flowers and mix them in, and it's really good. I like pansies. Brace drivers for socket for screws. Yeah, because you can get the brace bits that have Phillips and flat blade. The flat blades are, and I have a couple of those in here. Anytime you're driving large flat blade, standard head screws with the slot head, using that in a bit is incredibly easy for the larger ones, and that's what they were intended to do. And so yeah, those are very, very old, but you'll find a lot of those around. Tell her we're thinking of her? Yep, I'll do that. Cool. Well, I think that will about do it. So if you do have any questions that I didn't get to, send me a message. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to Oh, I didn't realize this. I forgot. I have 2 shirts here. I was cleaning out the old storage area, and I have 2 shirts that I'm going to be giving away. So let's actually do a quick giveaway here. Now, here's the thing. I have 2 shirts here, and they're specific sizes. So I've got a small, and I've got an extra large. So a 1X and a small. So we're first going to give away the 1X, and I want to do a quick giveaway for those who are left. So there probably aren't too many people that we're wrapping up. So those of you sticking around, thank you. I want to say a huge thank you for hanging out. Let's give away the 1X shirt. So let's do what was the last cheese that I made? If you can answer correctly, what was the last cheese that I made? The last cheese that I cooked. That I will give you the 1X. So only put that in here if you want a 1X shirt, and I'm going to see that. If you want the small shirt, we are going to do oh, come on, you got to do something fun here. Ooh, okay. How many? No, I can't do that one because I don't remember that one. Let's see. Feta, Kraft, Singles, Cheddar, Feta, Brie, nope, not Whiz. I didn't make any of those. So still waiting. Kobe, Havarti, Swiss, nope. Oh, okay, I know. How many Riffler files do I have? The person, no, that's too big of a number. Oh, here's an easy one. For the small shirt, what company makes the card scrapers that I use? The first person to put that in there will get the small shirt. Kobe, Havarti, Swiss, nope. I'm leaning towards Ches. Farmers, Edam, no. Wow, I thought that would be a really easy one with the cheese. So what company makes my my card scrapers will get the small shirt? DMT, there we are. DFM, there's not DMT, DFM, there we go. DFM was Brian Fulmer. Brian, if you can send me your contact information, remind me you get the small, and I will send a small shirt out to you. Mozzarella, curd, cream, nope. Man, I thought this would be an easy one. What was the last cheese that I made? Let me give you a hint. It was, you usually buy it in a tub. But I don't sell it in a tub. I put it in a Tupperware container. Yeah, DFM Toolworks. Brian Fulmer, if you can send me your information and I'll get that shirt out to you. Cottage cheese, there we are, Steve Combs. Steve, send me your information and I'll get this XL shirt out to you. I didn't realize I still had shirts, but they were hiding in the background, so thank you. Cottage cheese to Steve Combs and Brian Fulmer for DFM Tools. He's the company who makes my card scrapers, which I'm currently out of stock. Sorry for that. Hopefully I'll be getting them back here soon. He's been having a hard time getting them due to everything that's been going on. So I think that'll about do it. If you want one of the shirts, send me your email and I'll get those out. Otherwise, we're going to be giving away a whole pile of marking knives and marking knife kits on Saturday, so stay tuned for that. Sure can. How? Oh, for sending me a link. If you go onto my website, woodbyright.com, there's a contact me page on there. You can put on your information on there and send it to me, and I'll get it out to you. Thanks, Steve. Cool. I think that'll about do it for today. So until next time, have a wonderful day. Now, I've got to go over and turn this off. You don't get to see me just standing put anymore because my wife isn't here to actually turn it off. It's a dream.